So over the years, I've told you a lot about my mentor, Dr. Pruitt. And Dr. Pruitt was a retired ophthalmologist and the smartest man I'd ever met in my life. There was a season where he invited me up just to build into me, pour into my life. And every Saturday morning for a couple of hours, I would go up to his house, and he had this home office that was just amazing with a couple of statues, like busts, then filled with books and just rich paintings, just phenomenal. And I'd go up there and he would just teach me about stuff. This dude knew about poetry. He knew about the railroad system. He knew about birds. It was like whatever you needed to know, this was the guy, and he was phenomenal. So he would do a little teaching at the church I was attending at the time. It was a small a cappella church. And do you know what I mean when I say a cappella? Like there were no musical instruments, just voices, okay? So small church, and up the stairs, there was this larger room that had like a kitchenette and a bunch of tables, like those tables we pull out during our potlucks. Time out. Wasn't last week phenomenal? What a potluck. I'm telling you, so good, so good. Denise and her team and everyone that brought food and made that happen, just thank you so much for how you just pour yourself into those moments. So you go up to this room where we had potlucks, and they do the same thing there. And at the far end on the wall, there was this door. And for me, it was just amazing. It's just a door, right? But for me, it just held so much because that's where he would go, like before service. And I was just so attracted to this guy's aura. So when you walked into this office, there was a picture on the wall. Like as soon as you stepped into the office, you could see the picture. And if the door was open as you're approaching the office, there was this picture just hanging on the wall. And it got my attention. So one day I asked him a little bit about it, and he told me his emotional connection with it. And I was like, I have to get one of those. And he was like, well, good luck. There's only 500 in the world. So I went and I looked a little closer, and you can see down at the bottom, he had like number 210 out of 500 or whatever. And the quote on it was amazing. So we're in this series called The Domino Effect. And what we're doing is we're going to walk through several stories, not just chippy verses, if you will, but several stories, mostly from the Old Testament, where we find someone making a lead decision. And that lead decision sets in motion this domino effect where everything starts to fall. Now, to get us going, just out of curiosity, raise your hand, yell if you don't like to raise your hand, if that makes you feel like you're back in school, scream, amen, stand up, whatever you want to do. I'm just curious where you all are. So this domino effect. But if this is you, like if this captures you, let me know. So you clean the kitchen at night, because you know a clean space in the morning leads to motivation throughout the day. So we go to bed with dirty kitchens, most of us. Okay, all right, I got you. All right, what about this one? You check your phone because of a notification. Everybody have notifications turned on? Okay, you check your phone for a notification, and it leads to mindless social media browsing, wasting 20 plus minutes of your life. Okay, dirty kitchens and wasting time. All right, we'll keep going. All right, you forget your alarm, and some of us, this is frequent. You forget to set an alarm, you wake up late, you skip breakfast, you speed on the way to work, and you're stressed all day. Anybody else? Okay, not so many. Okay, I got you. But you can see with that there's this one moment, this one decision, this one effect that causes everything else to just fall. Well, that's kind of how it is with the life of a guy named David. I mean, we're going to step into David's story, and David is actually in a really good spot. Like if you've tracked David's life, you know that David is often called a man after God's own heart. And he's the guy responsible for slaying the giant Goliath. So this is a really good dude. And in this season of David's life, everything is going well. Like he has climbed the corporate ladder. He's like commander-in-chief of the army. He is the guy. He's set up for success in nearly every area of his life. And this is in 2 Samuel. So if you like to follow along, 2 Samuel 11. If not, we've got it on the screen for you. But this is a season where the text is going to tell us that something should transpire, but David, he stays back. The text actually says in the springtime, when kings or armies go off to war, David actually stayed behind. he didn't go. Time out. Let me ask you a question. Just as your pastor, let me just pick around in your life for a second. Is there any of you out there this morning and you know there's somewhere you should be? And you can get a little creative with that. It can be a very physical location, or it could be some spot in your life. But is there somewhere you know you should be and you're not? If that's the case, then you are setting yourself up for failure. Some of you have heard this story, but we've grown enough that I want to tell it again. Way back when in my late teens, I made a couple of bad decisions, and thankfully those decisions, even though they created a domino effect, they actually created another trajectory for my life that has led me to be your pastor today. But one of those decisions was I needed to make a round trip that was going to be about 3 hours total. But the deal was I only had about 2.5 hours to make this trip. So the logical thing, and Gary's not here so I can say this, the logical thing is that you drive really, really fast and aggressively, right? So that's what I was doing. And I'm in this one specific zone where the speed limit is about 45. And I'm really pressed for time because if I don't get back, I'm going to be in big trouble with my parents. The people that I'm with, I shouldn't be with them. They have told me not to be with them. Where I'm at, I shouldn't be there. What's going on, I shouldn't be involved with it. So I'm speeding. It's a 45 zone. I'm doing 85. Okay? As I'm driving down this road, happens to be 2 lanes this way, 2 lanes this way. We get to this little bitty curve, just a little curve in the road, and I see a state trooper coming. And I'm like, 85, I'm going 40 over. I'm going to lose my license. My parents are going to find out. This is going to be awful. So as this guy and I, as we get about like this right here, it's one of those surreal moments like in a movie. Like if somebody was watching this, I bet it just slowed down. So this cop and I, we pass, and I look over, and I looked at him, and he looked at me. That thing right there, and we just lock eyes across these lanes, and I know he's coming at me. So I look in the rearview mirror, and I can see him make the U-turn. So I panic. And in my 18-year-old mind, I think, okay, what do? Do I speed up? That's not going to work. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just pull off. And maybe I can pull off the side of the road, and maybe I can pull off, again, give me some grace here. I can pull off the side of the road and hide a little bit, and he won't see me. So in that decision-making process, I start to turn off the side of the road. I don't know what happens if I panic, all that goes on in that moment, but the car starts to fishtail. And I hit a set of gas pumps. Not the actual station, but a set of gas pumps, unleaded, 87, 89, high octane, that right there thing. I hit those, and it knocks the pumps about 20 feet in the distance. And the car is just sitting over there. To this day, we have no idea why there wasn't an explosion, but the car is just there. And I can see this, I can feel it. I'm just getting a little shook up right now thinking about this, hearing the light or hearing the sounds of sirens and seeing the lights, and then multiple police officers pulling up. And I'm in this moment simply because I was at a place I shouldn't be. Is there anywhere you should be? If you're not where you should be, you're setting yourself up for a very destructive domino effect. So David hangs tight, and in his life, the dominoes start to fall, and they fall fast. So David's army's out, and they usually go out in the springtime because the paths are clearer for the armies to march and to maneuver their weapons, and the crops are more plentiful. So David's like, I'm at a spot, everything's good. I'll just hang back. And he hangs back, and he sees this beautiful young lady named Bathsheba. And since he's the guy, he can have whatever he wants, so he sends for her. He has an affair. She gets pregnant, and she sends word back to him. So in David's 18-year-old thinking mind, even though he's older, he says, oh, I've got this. Here's what I'll do. I'll call her husband off because he's a top dude in the army. I'll call her husband, send him home from some respite from the war, and then it'll look like they came together and the baby is his. Well, that doesn't work. The guy rejects the offer because he's filled with integrity. So David's like, okay, here's what I'll do. I'll still bring him off the war, and then I will have a little party with him, and I'll get him wasted. That way I can send him home, and then it'll look like he came together with his wife. He's the father of the baby. Everything's cool. This dude is so filled with integrity that even though he gets a little wasted, he has too much to drink, he sleeps right there. He doesn't go home. So David's like, all right, here's what I got. Best next decision is this. So he calls the top military man, and he says, here's what I want you to do. Put Bathsheba's husband Uriah on the front lines where the fighting is fiercest, and then draw the army back a little bit so that he's shot down. And that's exactly what happens. He's where he shouldn't be, and it leads to this affair. It leads to this child. It leads to murder, simply because he isn't where he should be. Now, here's the good news. There's a pivotal moment in this story, and I want to read it to you, okay? This is not on the screen. I just want you to hear this as if it was being told for the first time. So God sends this guy to David, and this guy's name is Nathan. And Nathan was a prophet, and the role of a prophet, like his job at the moment, was to come along and to speak truth. A prophet was to come along and speak truth into someone's life. And as they spoke truth into someone's life, hopefully that truth pierced their heart, and it rewired the way they were thinking so that they could really define reality and say, this is what's happening in my life, and here's the adjustment that I need to make. So God is very displeased with this thing that David has done. So he sends Nathan to David, and here's what Nathan does, okay? Listen to this story. So the Lord sent Nathan, the prophet, to David. And when Nathan came to him, he said, hey David, listen to this story I came up with. There were two men in a certain town. One was so rich, and the other was extremely poor. The rich man had a very large number of sheep and cattle, but the poor man had nothing except one little lamb that he had bought. And he raised this lamb. I mean, we get close to dogs, right? So you can empathize a little bit. You're close to your dog. It's like family. So he raised it, and it grew up with him and his children. I mean, it shared his food. It drank from his own cup, and this lamb even slept in his arms. It was like a daughter to him. You ever been that close to one of your pets? It's family, right? Now a traveler came to the rich man, but the rich man, he refrained from taking one of his own sheep or cattle to prepare a meal for this traveler. Instead, he took the little lamb that belonged to the poor man, and he prepared it for the one who had come to him. Well, David, after hearing this story, he burned with anger. And he burned with anger against the man. And he said to Nathan, as surely as the Lord lives, the man who did this deserves to die. I mean, David gets it, right? He must pay for that lamb 4 times over because he did such a thing and he had no pity. And Nathan cuts him off and he says, David, you are that man. Now, I want you to get this. You can imagine being in that story at that moment. Here's what Nathan is doing. Nathan is defining reality. So I hope every one of you has someone in your life, and this is the beauty of being connected to a local church. If you don't have someone in your family or in your friend circle, and you come to a place like Madison Hills, this is one of the things we can offer you. Someone who can step into your life with your permission and your willingness and speak truth to you. They can help you define reality as it currently exists in your life so that you know how to move forward. And that's exactly what Nathan is doing for David. And it's at this moment that things shift and start to fall into place. So we're talking about this idea of a domino effect, but there's something called a double domino effect, which is so cool, okay? I'm going to show you a video here in just a minute, and I want you to know I did some research on this. This is not CGI. This is not AI. I actually called Lonnie Smith. And I was like, Lonnie, watch this video. Tell me what you think. Does this really occur? And he was like, oh yeah, this happens. But what I want you to see, that if you think you're at a point in life where you're like at the end of your rope, or you've had enough, or you're unsure of what to do, and you're in one of those pivotal moments, there can be this kickback that causes a reverse ripple, so that the domino effect in your life, even though it was negative, can start to become positive, and everything can change. Check this video out. Is that amazing or what? That is so stinking awesome. And that is something that can happen in your life where there's this moment where you reach the end and a reverse ripple occurs and things start to fall into place. And that's exactly what happens in this story after Nathan approaches David. There's this defining of reality, and reality's dynamic. It can change so quickly, and things can really, in your life, start to fall into place. So here's what happens. I want to read this to you. This is so cool. And you've got to know this though, okay? As you move into your future, whether the future that you need to move into and be where you belong is later today, or later this week, or next month, or you're planning for a year out, you've got to know that everyone around you will not be eager to help you define reality. Everyone around you, even though they're family or close friends, will not be eager to tell you the truth, because sometimes they don't know how. They don't know what to say, and they don't know what to do. That's why you need someone in your life who can speak truth, because it's truth that will actually change what's happening in your life in any given moment. So this child is actually born. David and Bathsheba, they actually give birth to this child, and this child is born, and the child dies. Well, David gets word that the child is really sick right before it dies. David gets word that this child is sick, and he's a wreck. Like, he realizes he is the man. He's responsible for this, and it levels him. So for the next several days, he doesn't eat anything. He doesn't rest. Instead, he just lays by this sick child's bed day in, day out. Not a lot of communication with people. He's just leveled and wrecked from this scenario. Listen to how this story unfolds. On the seventh day, the child died. David's attendants, the people who were really influential in his life with serving him, they were afraid to tell him that the child was dead. And here's what they thought. And you're going to have people that are close to you, and they're going to have thoughts about what's going on in your life, and they're not going to know what to say or how to say it. So they thought, while this child was living, he wouldn't listen to us. He wouldn't speak to us. How can we tell them the child is dead? He's going to do something desperate. Like, if we tell him the child's dead, he's going to lose it. You see how they are not defining reality? Well, David noticed that his attendants were whispering among themselves, and he realized the child was dead. So he walked up to the attendants and he said, "Is the child dead?" They replied, "Yes." Two things happened next. The very next verse in your Bible is amazing to me. David got up from the ground. He washed, changed his clothes. He went into the house of the Lord, and he worshiped. Then he went to his own house, and at his request, they served him food, and he ate. Did you catch that? His child dies. And let me read what David does one more time. He got up from the ground. He washed, changed his clothes, went to the house of the Lord and worshiped. Then he went to his own house, and at his request, they served him food, and he ate. It's a really interesting study to see how all of those are connected, or how they lead in to one another. For example, could he have eaten without getting up? He made a decision, and in that decision, it creates a reverse ripple so that some things start to fall in place in David's life. But that very first decision, what's happening in his life, real time, right now, he got up. Curious if you're not sure what your next step is. And I'd like to make a plug for our Next Step class. Now, last week we told you, we introduced it over the past couple of weeks as March 15th. We need to tweak that a little bit. Our leaders are going to be out of town, so we're pushing it back 1 week to March 22nd, right after service around 11:45 in the community room. And this is a great opportunity for you. If you're unsure what your next step looks like in this journey of following our Lord Jesus, this class is for you. You can learn more about baptism or getting connected in a study or a group, or what it means to serve here at Madison Hills, what it means to be a member here. So this is your next step where you can get some really good info about what it looks like for you to move into the future of following Jesus here at Madison Hills. But let me ask you, real time, what is your next step in your life today? Like, you need to get up. There's some things that need to fall into place. And I know right now in a room this size, we're not talking to everybody. But the people that God is speaking to right now, what is your next step that's going to put you where you should be? Second thing that happens, and I want to underscore this one more time because this is the value of Christian community. Well, his attendants asked him, and this is the part that reinforces it, underscores that idea that some people in your life, even though they mean well, even though they love you, will not always know what to do in terms of what is best for you. So his attendants asked him, David, why are you acting this way? While the child was alive, you fasted, you wept, but now that the child is dead, you get up and you eat? What? No one does that, David, except someone who has this reverse ripple, this domino effect where things start to play out because they're making an intentional decision to move forward. This is awesome. So here's what I want you to do. We're going to do a real-time activity. And again, if this isn't hitting with everybody, it's a good time to finish that grocery list. Check the news, see what the latest is happening in the Middle East. Whatever you need to do, just sit back, close your eyes for a second. It was a long night last night. Just close your eyes for a moment. The people that this is really firing on all 8 cylinders, here's what I want you to do, and I want you to do this in real time. I want you to define your reality. I want you to get extremely honest with yourself. And what David does next, and this is where we're going to spend the rest of our time, we're going to see exactly how you do that. Because if you've been tracking with this so far, you've probably reached a moment to where it's like, how do I define my reality? Like, what do I actually do? You know, my child didn't die. You know, I had a full meal. Like, what do I do with this? How do I define reality? Here's what David says in response to the question, why are you acting this way? The text goes on and David says, while the child was alive, this is verses 22 and 23, while the child was alive, I thought, who knows? I don't know how this is going to play out. Maybe it's 50-50. Maybe God's going to be gracious and let the child live. What's going to happen? Unsure. Very next verse says, but now that the child is dead, why should I fast? Why should I weep? I mean, I'm going to go to him. I'm going to die one day, but I can't bring him back. When I read those verses, here's what I see David doing. David is literally saying, here's what I can do, and here is what I can't do. And that's where I want you to spend some time. Now, the most difficult thing, I don't know about you, but the most difficult thing is sometimes knowing what to do, but not being able to do it. So let me reinforce just a little Facebook theology. I don't get a lot of my theology from Facebook, but every now and then I do, and I want you to know this right here. I think we got a picture of it. The best decision you can make, the best decision is usually the one you don't want to make. Oh, it's clear. This is what I should do. This is where I should be. This is what should happen next. But I really don't want what comes with that. David probably doesn't want to get up. He probably doesn't want to take a bath and change his clothes. He probably doesn't feel like going to church and then going home and fixing a meal and eating it. His child just died. He probably doesn't feel that way, but that is the best decision he can make. So what I want you to do is I want you to get out your phone, open your notes app. I want you to find somebody close to you that has a pen you can borrow because you've got a little sheet of paper in the chair in front of you. Or if there's not one there, you can ask someone for a sheet of paper. And again, if this isn't hitting with you, check that grocery list. You're okay for the next few moments. But if this is you and you need to define reality, you're going to borrow something to write with. You're going to get your phone. You're going to open your notes app. And you and I are going to list what you can and can't do. Okay? That's your assignment for the next minute and a half. You're in this situation where you need to define reality. What can you do? What can't you do? And if you need a little help, listen to this. I was meeting with someone. I've actually met with a handful of people. It's one of the reasons I want to do this church-wide. I've met with a handful of people the past month or so, and we've walked through this exercise, and it's been extremely enlightening. So one individual, I was like, hey, I know the notes you gave to me where you were outlining what you can do and what you can't do. And it was phenomenal. You got really practical with this. Could I use that? And this person was like, yes. So I'm not using any names, but if you need a little help about how this works, I want you to hear what this person did. So here's what this individual can do. I can work on managing my emotions. Oh, that's really good. I can literally work on managing my emotions. I can try to think through my reactions. I thought that was amazing because there's a big distinction between a reaction and a response. And here at Madison Hills, we want to be people who are responsive, not reactive. So this individual says, I can literally do that. I can try to think through my reactions. They also said this, and I thought this was really good. They said, I can figure out my schedule. Will that hit home for anybody? It's something so basic, but I bet some of our schedules are just out of order. Flip the page over. Can't. This is so good. This person said, I literally can't control others. Anybody in the business of trying to control other people? It's a never-ending battle, isn't it? Have you heard that joke? Oh my gosh, let me just insert this real quick. You know the comedian George Carlin? Okay, and I know he's probably not really churchy, right? Okay, but he's got this great joke where he says, have you ever been driving down the interstate and you notice that everybody who drives slower than you is an idiot? And everybody that drives faster than you is just a moron? I mean, isn't that the case? It's where I am is where everyone needs to be. So this person says, I can't control others, and I need to get clear on that. They go on and they say, I can't stop other people's reactions, which is why they want to think through theirs so they're responsive. I can't keep yelling. That's a good one. So when you're thinking about defining reality and your life and moving forward, what can you do? And what can't you do any longer? Let me show you how valuable this is. Several hundred years later, a guy named Jesus comes on the scene. And he talks about David a little bit, and he does his own teaching. And he starts really doing some teaching that actually starts to mess with people because it feels personal. It feels like the stuff he's teaching is, in essence, defining reality. And some people start believing in him. And in John 8, we read these words right here. Jesus says, hey, if you believe in me and you believe in my teaching, then you are really my disciples. That's interesting. If you hear what I'm telling you, then you really are my disciples. And the next verse goes on and he says, and if you are my disciples, you're buying into my teaching, then you will know the truth. And notice what the truth does. It's the truth that will set you free. Now, in the first century, when you read the word truth, it was synonymous or interchangeable with the idea of reality. You could actually put the word reality into that verse and it would read the same. If you hold to my teaching, you're really my disciples. And then you'll know reality. And reality will set you free. So I went to that church. Dr. Pruitt's been dead for some time. And I went to that church about 4 or 5 years ago. And there's a new pastor there, a really cool guy. And I'm just walking through and I was like, hey, do you mind if I just take a few minutes and just walk through the building? And it's just, emotion and nostalgia. And he was like, sure. So I'm walking through and everything. And I go up to that old office and the picture's gone. And I'm like, oh, man, I'd have loved to have that. So I come back downstairs and I'm walking in the back, a few classrooms or whatever, and there's some stuff that's just been pushed to the side. And the picture was over there, this picture. And I saw it from the back and I was like, could it be? So I went over there and I picked it up and I was like, oh, that's it. And I asked this guy, I was like, hey, it looks like you're doing some renovations here. If this is a trash pile, I would love to have this if you ever think about getting rid of it. He was like, well, why don't you go ahead and take it now? I'm like, thank you so much. So this has been hanging in my home office for some time. And the quote on it simply says this: to be completely honest with oneself is the best effort a human being can make. You being honest with yourself? You're defining reality? Because the reality is truth. And it's that honesty that's going to set you free. It's that moment you define reality to where you can have that kickback. And then everything starts to fall into place. That reverse domino effect. God, you're so good. And we know that from so many different angles. You're so good because you connect us with this church community that honors your word. And your word is so good because it's not just out there stuff. It's so tangible and practical. And we're thankful, Father, for a guy like David who has a story with ups and downs that we can step into because that's our lives, up and down. And we're thankful, Father, for moments like this where we can define reality and embrace the truth and give our best shot at being fully honest, completely honest with ourselves so that that honesty can reflect reality, and that reality can give us truth, and that truth, it can set us free. And that's what we ask for right now, Father, that some of us can experience that reverse ripple. And from this moment, outlining what I can and can't do, some things can begin to fall into place. And we trust you with that, God, as always. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, amen.